Hey guys, welcome back to Srishti Tech Academy. Are you preparing for Infosys technical interview? Then this video is exclusively for you. Whether you are a Java developer with 2+ years of experience or someone looking forward to switch into backend role, then this is your smart way to success. I have carefully handpicked and curated Infosys interview questions from multiple sources. That is, from real candidates who have shared their Infosys interview experiences, then from tech forums, from different websites and YouTube channels, all focusing on Java, Spring Boot and microservices. I have created a series of 3 videos. In part 1, we will discuss about the Infosys interview questions that were asked in Java only. In part 2, we will discuss about Spring Boot interview questions. In part 3, we will discuss about microservices interview questions. This is part 1. In this video, let us discuss about the Java interview questions asked exclusively in Infosys. Let us get started. Guys, as I told you, in this video, we will discuss about only the Java interview questions that were asked in interviews exclusively in Infosys. The pattern I noticed is few of the questions were asked again and again for different candidates in different places. So, I have curated totally 25 interview questions in Java. These are the questions. What are the features of Java? What is a functional interface? What are memory leaks? Can you add new methods to an existing interface? Okay, no worries. For few of the questions you may be knowing the answers. For few of the questions you may not be knowing the answers. If you know the answer, think this as a recap. If you don't know the answer, think this as a learning process. Together with this, I am also going to share you a bonus question. For this, I will not give the answer because that is a very important concept. I will explain it in detail in a separate video. Okay, now let us get started. What are Java 8 features? Most of the people know the answer for this, but if you are new to Java or if you are switching to Java, then this may be new for you. Functional interfaces, lambda expressions, default and static methods in interfaces, method references, streams API, optional, completable future which is from concurrency API, datetime API. Next question. What is a functional interface? This is one of my favorite question. The moment they start with Java 8, they ask this question. A functional interface is an interface which can have only one single abstract method. It can have default and static methods also. The functional interface may or may not be annotated with @functional interface annotation. This is just for the compiler. If an interface is annotated with @functional interface, if you try to add one more extra method to an interface, immediately you will get a compiler error. Few functional interfaces are Runnable, Comparator, Comparable. These were from older versions of Java, that is before Java 8. From Java 8, the new functional interfaces that were introduced are function, consumer, supplier, predicate, by consumer, by function. Okay. Why do we need functional interface? This is a bonus question. This was asked in a different place, so I have added it over here. The purpose of functional interface is just to inform that it is responsible to perform one single functionality. As in, if you are using consumer interface, interface is used just to consume data. It will not return any value. Supplier is just to return the data. It will not consume data. That is, it is not going to take any input, but it will return output. Predicate is used for testing a condition. Map will take an input of one type and return an output of another type. Runnable is an interface which is used with multi-threading. Comparator is an interface which is used for comparing two objects based on certain properties. So, the purpose of functional interface to perform one single activity or functionality only. Okay, we will move on to the next question. What is method reference in Java? how and when it is used. This is the definition and the different types of method references. Now let me explain it in simple words. Method references help you to refer to existing methods or constructors in different classes that can be used with my functional interface. That is, in my functional interface, when I have a method, I need to use lambda expressions to implement it. Rather, if any other class is having a method with the same signature and the same logic that I want, I don't have to implement it using lambda expression. I can refer to the existing method which is already there. I am not going to execute that, but I will refer it and use it with my functional interface. If I have to explain it using simple real example, say for example, me and my friend are studying in two different colleges. Both of us got the same assignment as cloud computing. Now, already he has written the complete assignment. Rather than me sitting and researching and creating the assignment all by myself, I can copy the assignments of my friend and use it for myself. Same way, rather than me sitting and implementing the functional interface using lambda expression, I can use the logic which is already available in an existing method. This is method reference. The operator for method reference is double colon. Method references can be done in 4 different ways. Referring to a static method of a different class, referring to an instance method of a different class, referring to an instance method of an arbitrary object of a particular type, that is also for a different class, referring to a constructor. So when you are explaining, you can take 2 examples and explain it. Here, referring to a static method, I have a calculator interface. This is my functional interface. Now I need to implement it using lambda expressions. But what I see is, I see another class which is having the same method signature. The return type is void, the access specifier is public, maybe the method name is different, but the parameters are also same. The logic also is the same logic that what I am expecting. So in that scenario, I can refer to this static method. So this is reference to a static method. How will you refer? Using double colon. Similarly, we can refer to an instance method. In technical interview, you can either explain it directly with an example here or using Eclipse. So let me show it with Eclipse. Here I have an interface greeter which is a functional interface. Now I need to implement this greeter. So if I am using lambda expression, it is greeter greet is equal to username arrow sysO hello plus username. In the next line, I need to call it using greet dot say hello by passing my name Priya. Okay, but rather than using lambda expression, what I see is there is a class student details which is having a static method with the same signature. The return type is void, the method name can be anything, the parameter list also is same, and it is also having the same functionality that what I need, that is welcome plus name. So rather than writing this logic, I can go in for, this is a static method. The static method always will be called using class name dot method name. So it is student details double colon greet user. So this is how we will implement it. So this is referring to a static method of a different class. Similarly, how to refer to a concrete method. So for this, let me create one more interface. Let me have the interface name as calculator. Let me add one method int sum int x comma int y. Now if you notice, the method signature of the method in the calculator interface is same as that of the method signature of student details class. So in this case, again you can use method reference. So here, now we are going to refer to a concrete method, that is a instance method. You can tell it as a non-static method also. So for this I need an object of student details. Student details is equal to new student details. I'm just creating an object. I need to implement calculator. Calculator calc is equal to. Now I cannot call this total marks directly using student details class because it is a instance method. Call it using this object. Student details. Actually you are not calling, you are referring to the method of student details. Student details double colon total marks. That's it. In the next line, call calc dot sum 20, 30. This is returning a result. So let me print it in a println statement. Okay, now remember, most of the times everybody gets confused. What you are doing is just the implementation. It is mandatory that you need to call it. So this is the part where you are calling the method of the interface. Here also this is the part where you are calling the method of the interface. This is just the implementation. Remember that. So method references are used to refer to an existing method or constructor of a different class without executing them directly. They can be used only with functional interface. When to use method references? Use method references when you have a method which is having the similar functionality. When you want to have a concise readable code. If you are working with strings, functional interfaces or callback methods, using method references will make your code look readable and precise. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. What are memory leaks and how they can be avoided? Memory leaks occur when an object that is no longer needed is referenced. That is, I have created a scanner object, connection object, file object. Once the operation is completed, I forgot to close the scanner, close the connection or file object, or I have created a calculator object. It is referenced by calc reference, but I have not made the calc reference to null. What happens is the object is still available there in the memory being unused. This prevents the garbage collector to reclaim the memory. Only if you make the reference null, the objects will be garbage collected. So these are few reasons for memory leak. Not removing unused objects like map, list and set. All these references are pointing to a set of 1000 objects, a list of 100 objects, and they are not being used at all. In those scenarios, memory will be consumed. If you want to release it, you need to make the references to null. Forgetting to unregister even listeners or observers. When you are working in an UI application working with buttons, list and menus. Long running leak threads holding object references. Okay. How to avoid memory leaks? As we discussed, if you are working with your user defined objects, make your user defined objects as null. So automatically the objects will be garbage collected after a period of time. Unregistered listeners. If you are using buttons, menus, list, you need to deregister them from listeners and observers. Avoid static references to objects. Never use static list or map, just like what I have given over here. Close the resources. This is one of the important cause of memory leak. It is mandatory that you need to close your connection, scanners and files. But now after Java 7, try with the resources has been introduced, so you don't have the headache of closing scanner, connection or file reader. If you are adding it within try with resources, automatically they will be closed. Okay. Use tools to detect leaks. Most of the companies use tools like JProfiler, Visual VM, not Visual VM, Visual VM to detect leaks. Okay, we will move on to the next question. Can you add new methods to an existing interface? Yes, by using default methods. Before Java 8, how did they achieve this? Before Java 8, you cannot add new methods to an existing interface. In that case, you can have to create a sub interface and add new functionality. Few examples are set and sorted set, collection and list, collection and set. Which map implementation prevents memory leak? Weak hash map. This class helps to automatically garbage collect the values once the keys are no longer in use. Which interface and collection allows us to remove duplicates? Set. Can you add two null values in hash map? Of course, yes. Let us move on to the next question. How do you create threads in Java? Now we have started with multi-threading questions. These questions are very important, be it Infosys or any other company, because even as a trainer I am also getting these kind of questions of late in any evaluation call, even starting with how do you create threads in Java. Threads can be created by extending thread class or by implementing Runnable. Which is better? Creating a thread by implementing Runnable is better because you are decoupling the business logic from the thread creation and control. But if the class itself has to behave like a thread, then you extend thread. Okay. Now let us see an example of creating a thread. First is by extending the thread class. Here, class myThread extends thread. This means the class itself is a thread. It is mandatory that you need to override the run method. From within the run method, write your business logic or call the methods of other class. Create another class with public static void main or any other method. Within this, I am creating an object of myThread. MyThread extends thread. So automatically it is a thread by itself. You can provide a name for the thread, provide priority for the thread, and you can start the thread. The moment you call th.start, automatically this thread will go into a thread pool. Do not worry, we will be discussing about the life cycle of thread, which is another question. Based on the priority, it will occupy the CPU. It means that it will enter into the runnable state. That is, it will enter into the run method. This is by extending the thread class. Now, how to create a thread by implementing Runnable? In case of Runnable, the business logic is completely separated from thread creation. So, how do you create a thread? Thread is equal to new thread. But I need to create a class that implements Runnable. So, here I have created a class that implements Runnable. It is mandatory that you need to override run method. Run method is from Runnable interface. Runnable is a functional interface. Here also the business logic goes inside the run method, or you can call the methods of other classes. Now in any other class you are creating a thread instance, but there should be a connectivity between this thread and the task that has to be performed by this thread. So for that we are using the constructor of the thread class. The first parameter is the object of the class that implements Runnable. The second parameter is the name of the thread. Or you can go in for any overloaded method. But if you simply create a thread like this, it will not work. It is mandatory that I need to pass the object of the class that implements this thread. Why? Because this is my thread. The task that has to be performed by my thread is available over here. To get a connectivity, we are passing the object of Runnable. That is object of the class that implements Runnable. The next line we are starting the thread. Okay. Now we will move on to the next question. Write a code to implement Runnable using lambda expression. Why lambda? Because Runnable is a functional interface. Now let us try this out. Directly I will show it from Eclipse. Here let us create a thread. Thread th is equal to new thread. As I told you, if I write just this line, I am simply creating a thread. But where is the task? The task is in a class that implements Runnable. If you are doing it separately, you have to create a class that implements Runnable over here. Class task1 implements Runnable. And here you need to override run method and add a println statement. Okay. But what is the connectivity between this and this? There is no connectivity at all. It means that you need to go in for another constructor that is available in the thread class, which tells that the task is available in a class that implements Runnable. Let me give control space. Here I have got Runnable task and string name. That's what we have seen. So I can just pass new task1 comma name of the thread1. That's it. This is without lambda expression. Now I want to use lambda expression. So what is the first parameter? Runnable. How will you implement Runnable? Using lambda expression. This is using a class. Now let me create one more thread. Before that I need to implement Runnable using lambda expression. Runnable run is equal to no parameter arrow method body. So welcome. Now let me create another thread. Thread th1 is equal to new thread of. Here I need to pass the object of the class that implements Runnable. This is using lambda expression, comma thread 2. Okay. Both the threads should be started. So let me call th.start and th1.start. And let me run this. Hello and welcome I am getting. We can also modify it little more. In the second scenario, I am going in for the third thread. I don't need the first line. Rather than writing it here, I am commenting it here. Now directly let me implement lambda. Arrow. This is so. Great day. This is my first parameter. The second parameter is thread 2. That is, in our case it is thread 3. Let me make this as thread. And we will start this also. th2.start. Okay, I have given it in one single line. So in the first case, explicitly we have created a class that implements Runnable. In the second case, we have implemented Runnable using lambda expression in a separate line. In the last case, directly I am just providing the implementation of Runnable. Now let us run and check. We will get all the three output. I have not given any sleep or anything. Okay, this is how you implement Runnable. Next question. Explain the life cycle of thread. The first step is we are creating a thread instance. We can create a thread instance either by extending the thread class or by implementing Runnable. As in, you need to pass a reference of Runnable, or if you are extending thread class, your class itself becomes a thread. So you need to create an object of that class. Now this is just a new instance. It is not behaving like a thread. The moment you call t.start, the thread will enter into a pool of thread objects. All the threads that you have created will be available over here. Based on the priority, a thread may enter into runnable state. It means it occupies the CPU. This means the thread will execute the code that is within the run method. While executing the code, if the thread faces thread.sleep, or if you are making the thread reference to wait, it means the thread will move from the runnable state to blocked state. It means that it leaves the CPU and it will enter into blocked state. Any other thread which is having the higher priority will now enter into runnable state. That is, it will start executing the code that is within the run method. A blocked thread will wake up after a period of time. How? If you are using thread.sleep to make the thread sleep, to make the thread block, then after 1000 milliseconds, that is after 1 second, automatically it will wake up and move into thread pool. But if you are using wait method to make a thread to block, explicitly you need to call notify or notify all to wake up the thread and make it move to the thread pool. So this process continues. Once the thread has completed the run method fully, it will enter into the dead state. A dead thread can never come back again. This is the life cycle of thread. Now you can see the explanation also. When a thread is first created, it is in new state. Thread T is equal to new thread. When you invoke start method, it gets ready to get the CPU. It's like you have started your bike but you have not moved forward. You have put the key in your bike, you have started but you have not moved forward. The thread changes into runnable state based on the priority. So it means it will execute the code that is inside run method. When sleep or wait method is called on a runnable state, it may enter into non-runnable state, thread.sleep. You need to pass how much milliseconds, okay. When a thread is blocked, it is still alive but it is not eligible for execution. A blocked thread will wake up after the time elapses, or if you call notify or notify all. The thread occupies the CPU depending on the priority. When a thread terminates, it is said to be in dead state. A dead thread can never come back again. This is the life cycle of thread. I hope it is clear. We will move on to the next question. What is the difference between runnable and callable? Runnable is an interface which is used with multi-threading applications. Callable is also an interface. It is also a functional interface which is used in multi-threading applications exclusively to work with concurrency applications. Okay, see here. Runnable is from java.lang package. Callable is from java.util.concurrent package. Runnable has a method public void run. No return type. It is not throwing any exception. Callable as a method as public v call means it is going to have a return type. V can be integer, string, employee, student, or it can be anything. This method throws exception, means it throws a checked exception. Runnable can never return a result. Callable returns a result of type v. Runnable execute the code without return, just like what we have seen. This is just going to return the data. Fire and forget. Result can be retrieved using future.get. Runnable cannot throw checked exception. Callable throws checked exception. Runnable can be used with thread and executor service. Callable can be used only with executor service with future or executor. Runnable use cases fire and forget tasks like providing logging details, email notifications, writing to a file. Callable can be used with tasks that has to be computed and it has to return value, as in parallel processing, summing, processing files. Runnable is used for basic thread execution. Callable can be used only for advanced concurrent applications, that is advanced concurrent operations. Okay, we will see a simple example of runnable and callable so that it is easier for you to explain this part. First, let us start working with runnable, using runnable. Already we have seen an example. So directly let me create a thread instance. Thread th is equal to new thread of, I am going to use this constructor, implement runnable here. So hello. This is the name of the thread 1. This is simple. In this case, we are creating the thread and also we are providing the task. When we are working with callable, callable can work only with concurrency API. Runnable also can work with concurrency API. So, in this case, we need to work with the classes and interfaces of concurrency API. Let us see how to use runnable and callable over there. So, for this, we need to use the method of executors. Executors is a class from concurrency API. Here we are using the method, that is the static method, new fixed thread pool. It means I will tell how many threads has to be created. In the previous case, I created the thread and also I provided the task. In this case, when you are working with executor service and executors, the thread creation is completely separated from the task execution. As a developer, we will be providing only the task that has to be executed. The thread creation will be taken care internally, but I need to tell how many threads that I want for this particular task to be executed. So let me create it. New fixed thread pool. It takes the number of threads that has to be created. So a pool of thread objects will be available. The return type is executor service. So here executor service ex service is equal to, okay. Now my threads are available. What is the next step? I need to provide the task that has to be executed. Executor service dot execute. It takes runnable as parameter. It means I need to provide the object of the class that implements runnable. In our case, let us use lambda expression. So welcome. See the difference. In this case, I am creating the thread, I am providing the task, only one single thread is available. In this case, 10 threads are there, only one single task is there. If I am adding this line, within a for loop that will run for 100 times. This means I am using 10 threads to execute 100 tasks. Okay, I am not going into the detail. As of now, let us understand. I am using execute method and I am providing the task. Now let me run this. We don't have to even start the thread because automatically it will be taken care. Okay, so this is for runnable. Now how to work with callable? Let me use the same executor service dot. The method over here is submit. Submit takes callable as parameter. Callable is a functional interface. It has one single method. The method is called. So we need to provide implementation for that. No parameter, arrow, but it is returning some data. So something like return have a great day. It means that I am returning a string. The return type of submit, you can have a look, it is future. Because I am returning a string, it is future of string. Future angle bracket string str is equal to ex service dot submit. You can write it in multiple lines or remove this curly braces, remove the return statement and finish it over here. That's it. Okay, import future. Now in the next line I need to call str.get to get the data. The return type is a string value. Let me change the variable name to future only. There are many methods of future which are available just to check whether the task is completed, whether the result is returned, whether the task is cancelled. You can check everything, but as of now I will stick on to get. This throws an exception, you can see over here, and it returns a string value. String result equal to, it will ask me to surround it with try catch. Let me add it, surround with try catch. I will go for multi catch so that it will be in one single line and I can print the output. So result. So both runnable and callable can be used with concurrency API. In case of runnable, the method is execute, it is fire and forget. In case of callable, the method is submit, it returns a value. The return type is future. Whenever you want to perform a task, do some blocking and then after some time get the result, go in for callable. Now let me go back to the slide. Here you can see the difference. The task that compute and return a value, whenever you want to perform some blocking and then get the data after a period of time, use callable. So this is the difference between runnable and callable. We will move on to the next question. Explain equals versus double equal to. Here I have got 4 objects. S1 and S2 are in non-memory pool. S3 and S4 are in memory pool. Now let us see the difference between equals and double equal to. Equals compares the literal values if it is string. Double equal to compares the object references. Now let us see an example. S1 dot equals S2 equals. So it will check only the literal values, whatever is after the equal to. S3 dot equals S4, this is also true. S1 dot equals S4, this is true. In all these cases, the literal value is hello, so it will return true only. S1 double equal to S2, both are in the non-memory pool, so only one single object is created. Both S1 and S2 are references pointing to the same object. I hope it is clear. There is S1, it is pointing to hello. S2, that is also pointing to the same object. I am not able to write here. Now S3 and S4. S3 and S4 are 2 different references pointing to 2 different objects. So it will return false. S1 and S4. S1 is different, S3 is different. S1 points to a separate object, S3 points to a separate object. So this also is false. Okay. So double equal to compares references, dot equals compares literal values. We will move on to the next question. What is the difference between iterator and list-iterator? Guys, going forward we will have few difference between questions. Few of the questions I have already shared it in difference between video. If you want to check that, I will give the link here. Both Iterator and ListIterator, they are using Iterator design pattern. Iterator allows iteration in forward direction only. ListIterator allows iteration in both forward and backward direction. Suppose I am having a list like this, I can convert it into an iterator object using the method iterator, no parameters. In case of ListIterator, I need to pass the size. So it means now the pointer is in the bottom of the list. It can move in the backward direction from the bottom to top or middle to top or middle to bottom. In whichever way you want to iterate, you can do it with the help of ListIterator. In case of iterator, you are having only two methods, next and has next. In case of ListIterator, you are having methods as next, has next, previous, has previous. Both of them follow the same pattern, that is iterator design pattern. Both of them are used to iterate through the elements of collection. Okay, we will move on to the next question. What is the difference between hash map and hash table? In case of hash map, the methods are non-synchronized, so it's not thread safe. Hash table is a legacy collection. Here the methods are synchronized, so it is thread safe. Hash map, because the methods are not synchronized, it can be used only in single threaded application. Because the methods are synchronized in hash table, it ensures only one thread can access the map at a particular point of time. So it supports multi-threaded applications. Hash map, if you want to use in multi-threaded applications, you have to use only concurrent hash map. Okay. Hash map allows only one null key and multiple null values. Hash table will not allow null key and also no null values. Hash map is faster. Hash table is slower as all the methods are synchronized. Okay. Next question. What is the difference between hash map and linked hash map? This question has been asked many times. Hash map store the keys based on the hash code values of the keys. Linked hash map, so it means it maintains the insertion order of keys. Hash map allows one null key and multiple null values. Linked hash map also allows one null key and multiple null values. Hash map is faster for non-ordered operations because the keys are stored as per the hash code value. Slightly slower. Hash map uses hash table for storage. Linked hash map uses a combination of hash table and linked list. We'll move on to the next question. Can static method be overloaded? Yes, static methods can be overloaded. The rule for overloading is the method name is same, but either the number of parameters or the data type of the parameter should be different. Here I have given a simple example. Static void show message. Next one, static void show message. The number of parameter is different. Okay, how do you call the static method? Class name dot method name. So when I call trial dot show message by passing my name, automatically it will enter into the second method. Okay, we will move on to the next question. This is so simple, right? What is concurrent modification exception? This exception occurs when you try to modify the structure of the list while iterating. This leads to fail fast behavior. That is, the exception occurs faster even before the expected time. Let us see this with an example. Here I have a list and I have my iterator. Let me run and show you the first output. This is working perfectly fine. Now let us try to modify the structure of the list while iterating. That is within the while loop. Let me try to add one more name. Okay. Now let me run this again. This time I will get concurrent modification exception. So concurrent modification exception occurs when you try to modify the structure of your list while iterating, when you try to add an element or remove an element. We will move on to the next question. If I write return or system.exit of 0 statement inside try block, will finally block get executed? Remember, this is a case where I am not getting any exception. If I write return statement inside try block, finally block will be executed, but the statements after finally will not be executed. But if I write system.exit of 0 inside try block, finally block will not be executed. Quickly let us see an example so that you will remember the answer. Here I have my code. I have added a return statement inside my try block with the proper catch, finally, and statements after finally. In this case, no exception will be thrown. Let us check it out. See the output. It is printing number 100. You have added a return statement. Before the control returns back to the calling code, in our case here it is JVM, it is executing the statements within finally, but the statements after finally are not getting executed. Now instead of return, let me add system.exit of 0. In this case, finally also will not be executed. I hope it is clear. System.exit of 0 means you are technically terminating your application. So even finally block will not be executed. We will move on to the next question. Can we have a try block without catch and finally? No, you cannot have a try block without catch and finally. But from Java 7, try with resources was introduced. So whatever resources you are having, you can add everything inside the try block. You can attach it together with the catch statement. You don't have to add finally for closing the resources. But now, if I remove the catch, I can add throws declaration. It means I will simply have try with resources. That is, I can have only try without catch and finally. So if you are explaining, you need to explain it properly. You can never have a try block without catch and finally. But if you are using try with resources together with throws declaration, then you can use try block all alone. Let me explain this also with an example. When you see it, automatically you will understand the scenario also. So that is the idea. This time I am explaining the questions with proper real examples. This time we are going to use try with resources. So let me add try. Within try I need to add the resource. File reader is equal to new file reader of, let me give a file name. I don't have the file also, not an issue. We are not going to read the file. Okay. Then after this round bracket, curly braces, then add a catch statement. Catch exception E. Okay. So E dot get message. We don't have to add finally block here. Within this, let me create an integer variable. I will get the value using integer.parseInt method by passing 100. Okay, so x. So this time we are having try properly with catch. I don't have to use finally because we are using try with resources. Automatically this file reader will be closed because file reader is implementing auto closable interface. Now let me run it. I don't have demo.text. The exception should be handled over here. I am simply giving e.get message. Let me run this. This is the exception message. The system cannot find the file specified. So I will give e.print stack trace just to know the exception. Save all, run it. File not found exception. You can see this. Demo.text. The system cannot find the file specified. That's okay, fine. We are having a catch. Now what I will do is I will remove the catch statement also. But this is file reader. This throws file not found exception. Either you need to use try catch or you have to use throws declaration. Let me add throws declaration. Okay, file not found exception, comma IO exception, or simply I can have only IO exception. Now again let me run this. This time also of course I will get an exception. It will be thrown as a stack trace. File not found, demo.text. Can you see this? So this time what you are having? You are simply having only a try block without catch and without finally. When you are using try with resources, finally block is removed. Now if you are using throws keyword, catch also is removed. So you can answer this question in this manner. We will move on to the next question. What are checked and unchecked exceptions? How do you handle using multiple catch statements? Unchecked exceptions are exceptions. If not handled, can be handled by the JVM. All the classes that come under runtime exception are called as unchecked exceptions. Example, number format exception, null pointer exception, array index out of bound exception, arithmetic exception. Checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are exceptions if not handled will give compiler error. They should be either handled using try catch or declared using throws keyword. All the classes that come directly under exception are called as checked exception. Few examples are, just now we have seen IO exception, file not found exception, SQL exception. I hope it is clear. How do you handle it? If you are using unchecked exceptions, even if you don't use try catch, the JVM will handle it and throw the stack trace to the console. In case of checked exceptions, it is mandatory that you need to use try with multiple catch. When you are using multiple catch, first you need to write the subclass exceptions, then you need to write the superclass exceptions. As in, first write file not found exception, then write IO exception, then write exception. This is the hierarchy. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Explain Streams API. Streams API was introduced from Java 8. A stream represents a sequence of elements which supports both sequential and parallel operations. A stream is an abstraction for collection of values. That is, it can work on list set. A stream is an abstraction for processing a collection of values. Say for example, I am having a list of employees. I want to get the list of employees who belong to a particular city. In this case, before Streams API, if we have to do it, we have to iterate through the list of employees. We need to create a temporary list. Inside the for loop, we need to check each and every employee if he belongs to a particular city. If he belongs to a particular city, take that employee and add it to the list. Now, this one, let me explain with the pictorial representation. When it comes to Streams API, try to explain it with the pictorial representation. I am going to do the same thing. Before Java 8, if I want to process a collection of values, that is a list of employees, this is how we do it. Let's say I am having a list of employees. If I want to get the employees who belong to a particular city, Bangalore, then I need to create a temporary list. Say employees by city. I need to create, then I need to iterate through this list using a for loop. Then if the employee belongs to a particular city, Bangalore, then I will add the employee to employees by city. Now I have got the second list, that is employees by city. Now again, from this employees by city, I want to get the list of employees who belong to a particular designation, maybe managers. So in this case, again I have to create a temporary list, that is employees by designation. So for this also, I need to iterate employees by city. Iterating employees by city, checking if the designation is manager. If the designation is manager, then add the employee to employees by designation. So first I had employees list, then I have created a employees by city, that is the temporary list. Then again I am creating employees by designation, that is the second temporary list. Now from this employees who are managers, I want to sort the employees by name. Then again I have to iterate using a for loop. Then perform the sorting operation. If you notice, the number of times that we are doing the iteration and the number of lists that we are creating is more. To avoid this and to do these operations internally, we are using Streams API. Streams API is an abstraction for the processing of elements. The same thing can be achieved easily using Streams API. Now let us do the same thing using Streams API. Here I am having a list of employees. The first step is I need to convert it into a stream. When I say I am converting it into a stream, it means one by one employee is going. That is as a sequence of elements. The output from this is a string. Now I want to get the list of employees who belong to Bengaluru. For that we need to use methods. There are many methods in Streams API. As of now we will just see one single method, filter. The input to a filter will be a stream. The output from the filter also will be a stream. So what is the condition for this filter? I will just say that the city should be Bengaluru. This filter takes predicate as parameter. That is a functional interface. Guys, if you want to explain Streams API in detail, you can watch my video on Streams API. As of now, I am explaining it in interview perspective. So the input to a filter is stream, output from the filter is also a stream. The iteration happens within the filter internally. We don't have to explicitly iterate it. Now I am getting a list of employees who belong to Bengaluru. Again I want to do it by designation, means again I need to call the filter method, specify with what I want to filter. Again I will be getting a list of employees. Now I want to sort them. I can call sort method. Now all these are called as intermediate operations. They are like stream, just like water flowing through a pipe. I cannot take water in between. The water goes through different types of filters, carbon filter, sand filter, stone filters. Likewise, it will go through different filters and finally we are getting the clean water. Similarly, the list of employees are going through different filters, but we cannot read it. It is just like water through a pipe. If I want to take water from the pipe, I need to attach a tap. The tap over here is called as terminal operation, with the help of which I can get the complete list of employees, that is the final list, or one single employee, or I can print the data. So all these can be achieved with the help of terminal operation. Whatever we are seeing over here are called as intermediate operation. This final list that I am getting is the original result. The purpose of streams is used for transforming and retrieving data. How does it transform? From 100 employees, now I am getting 50 employees. From 50 employees, I can just get the name of employees alone. The stream will never change the source. The source is intact. The input to a method is a stream. The output from the method is also a stream, unless until you call a terminal operation. This is more than enough to explain Streams API. There are few more points. We will see it from the slide. Streams can be created from collection, arrays or iterators. Streams allows to transform and retrieve data, which I have explained. A stream does not store its element. Stream operation don't change their source. Returns a new stream holding the result. We have specialized streams for primitive data types like int stream, long stream, double stream. This is enough to explain about Streams API. We will move on to the next question. What is an optional class and what is the purpose of it? Optional is like a container which may or may not have value. Optional class was introduced to avoid null pointer exception. Whenever you are using optional, it is mandatory to check whether optional is having value or not. If you are trying to print an empty optional, you will get an exception, that is no such element exception. Okay, in the first case, why did they go in for optional? Whenever developers are working with applications, there are scenarios that the backend may return a null value. While returning, when the developer is trying to retrieve this data, without checking for null, they try to retrieve the property of that particular object, which may result in null pointer exception during the runtime. To keep a check on this scenario, optional class was introduced. So, whenever the data is returned from the backend, be it an employee object or a list of book object, attach it to an optional. So, the optional will be given to the other class. Whenever you are returning data from the backend, rather than returning an employee object or a list of book objects or null value, you can put it inside a container. This container is an optional. Optional of employee, which may or may not have value. Optional of list of string. Optional of book. It can be anything. When it comes to your class, now it is mandatory that the developer has to do a check. The developer has to check whether the optional is having value. Only if it is having value, he need to take it. So this way we are avoiding null pointer exception. I hope it is clear. We will quickly see an example of optional. Now let us create an object of optional. Optional of, let me give the variable name as optstr equal to optional.off. We are using the static method of optional. There are three methods available. One is empty. It means my optional is empty. If I try to get the value from the optional, I will get no such element exception. The second one is optional.off, which takes value. This means it will take only not null values. If you are trying to pass null, you will get null pointer exception. The third one is off nullable. It will accept both null and not null values. If the value is available, it will return the value. If the value is not available, it will throw no such element exception. Okay, we will start with off nullable. Let me pass my name, Priya. And always remember, whenever you are having an optional, it's like a container. It may have value or it may be empty. It is better that you need to do a check before printing the value. So how? There are many methods available, but to start with, I am going to print it directly. optstr.get. This returns a string, so let me print it within println statement directly. Let me run this. This will work perfectly fine. Now instead of Priya, let me pass null. Let us see what is happening this time. So this time I am getting an exception as no such element exception, no value present. The same case, if I am using optional.off by passing null, this time it will throw null pointer exception. I ran it. You can see the output. It is throwing null pointer exception. Okay. So this is the difference. When you are using off and pass null, you will get null pointer exception. If you are using off nullable, it accepts both null and not null values. In case of null, it will throw no such element exception. So what is mandatory? Whenever you are working with optional, it is mandatory that you need to check whether it is having value or not. There are many methods available for checking it, but three main things I want to tell it. So based on it, you can choose the methods. If the optional is having value, return the value, or else don't return anything. First way. Second way, if the optional is having the value, return the value, or else return me a default value. That is the second way. The third way, if the optional is having the value, return the value, or else throw an exception. So this is the third way. I am just going to show you only through the first way because this is interview question, so I don't want to go in detail of optional. Let me use the if condition. If optstr dot is present. If it is present, return the value. But when I am using off, I am not supposed to use null. Okay. I will go in for off nullable. Technically this line throws no such element exception, but I am doing a check, so I will not get any output. Okay, even if I am using optional dot empty. When I am using optional dot empty, this time also it has to throw no such element exception, but I am doing a check, so I am not getting any output. I hope it is clear. If someone is asking, you should be in a position to explain it using a code also. That is why I have explained it properly through a code. We will move on to the next question. What is the difference between optional.off and optional.off nullable? We have already seen it, so I'll directly let me show you the points. Optional.off. To create an optional with not null value. Optional.off nullable. To create an optional that may take null or not null value. In case of optional.off, if the value is null, it throws null pointer exception. In case of optional.off nullable, if the value is or if the optional is empty, it throws no such element exception. Use this only if you are sure that the value is present. Use this when the value may or may not be null. Already we have seen both. Okay. So we have completed 24 questions. Let us move on to the last question, which is from a design pattern. Explain singleton design pattern. My dear guys, this is a very important question. This comes under design pattern. There are three main design patterns in Java: creational, structural and behavioral. Singleton design pattern comes under creational design pattern. How the objects are getting created. In case of singleton design pattern, only one instance of a class will be created and it will be available whole through the application and it has global access of it. If I want to have only one single connection object or logger object, I can make them as singleton. How do you create a singleton class? You need to make the constructor as private. Create a static instance within the class itself. create a public static method that returns an object of the class. If you want to learn about Singleton design pattern in detail, I have given if you want to learn about Singleton design pattern in detail, I have given a video about this exclusively. You can watch that. Remember, when you are working with Singleton design pattern, they will also ask, how will you handle it in a multi-threaded environment? Because in case of a multi-threaded environment, every time a thread comes in, it may try to get its own object. So how do you handle it? You need to use synchronized block. Okay, let me explain this with an example also. I want to make this class a singleton. The first criteria is I need to have a private constructor. So I want to make this class behave as a singleton class. So the first criteria is I need to create a private constructor. Go to source, generate constructor from superclass, make it as private, click generate. Okay. Then I need to create a private static instance variable, bonus details. That is, I am creating an object of the class in the same class itself. Bonus details instance is equal to new bonus details. This is the second step. The third step is create a public static method that returns an instance of this class. So it is public static. The return type should be bonus details. So let me copy this. Let me have the method name as create instance, and I need to return the instance. Okay. So if you notice, in this case it is yearly loading. That is, the moment the class is getting called, automatically it is getting created. So I don't want this. So we will remove here. We have to check. If the instance is null, then only create it. If instance double equal to null, then instance is equal to new bonus details and return the. Now let us check whether this is working fine. What I will do is, inside this private constructor, let me add a simple println statement. Inside constructor, this is enough. Go to the main class. Let me get the instance of bonus details by calling the static method bonus details dot create instance. This returns an object of bonus details, right? Bonus details is equal to, let me create one more object. In both the cases, only one time the private constructor will be called, because only one instance will be created and the same instance will be returned to you again and again. Let me run this. So I am getting inside constructor. So the constructor is called only once. Okay. Now let us do the same thing for a multi-threaded environment. So we need to put this instance inside a synchronized block. Before that, I need to have an object of bonus details. Only then I can synchronize it, right? New bonus details. So here let me add a synchronized block. Synchronized instance. If the instance is null, create the instance or return the instance. Okay. So this is my synchronized block where I am synchronizing my instance. If the instance is null, then it has to create a new object. But already we have created an object. Remember, if your instance is null here, your synchronized block will throw null pointer exception. Now let me run this. Now again you see I am getting the same output inside constructor. If you want to try, you can try creating threads and work on it. So this is about singleton design pattern. So what is the purpose of singleton design pattern? Whenever you want to have only one single instance of a class all through the application and give global access to it. Okay. So this is our final question. As I told, I have got a final question which also was asked in interviews, but I cannot explain it in 1 or 2 lines. What is that question? Explain solid design principle. If you are a person who is working as a Java developer, it is mandatory that you need to know this question. If you are a person who is working in support and tester and trying to switch into any backend role, for you also it is mandatory, because this is the base for writing any code. Solid, S. Single responsibility principle. O. Open close principle. L. List code substitution principle. I. Interface segregation principle. D. Dependency injection principle. It is very important for any developer who is working in Java, the backend role. Hey, they should know how to use these design principles for architecting their applications or even for working with simple applications. Okay, so I cannot explain it in 4 or 5 lines. I need a solid video on this. I am planning to do one. During that time, you will get a better idea. But still, if you are seriously preparing for Infosys technical interviews, you better refer some sites and get an understanding about this. Okay, guys, I have put maximum effort to curate the questions from different sites wherever it is possible to get these Java interview questions exclusively for Infosys technical round. I hope it is really helpful for you. Okay, we have successfully seen 25 interview questions. Same way we will see it in part 2, that is in Spring Boot. I would like to get your comments about this video. Share your thoughts, your comments, and even if you are having any interview questions relevant to Infosys, you can share it in the comments. I will add it to the next part together with Spring Boot. Guys, if you are looking forward to learn Java full stack or Spring Boot or microservices, please do book a call with me in the link given in the description below. Also try to join our WhatsApp community. I am starting with the Java full stack challenge where each and every day I will be posting mini challenges. You can take up the challenge to know where you stand. If it is required, you can take up the guidance of any mentor or you can do self-learning to move forward in your career. I am always there to help you out to progress in your career. That's it. Let us learn, code and grow together. See you in the next video. Thank you.